Greetings, friends! Boy, things are really growing right now. We have plants that are growing, animals that are growing, the temperatures are nice. Man, I love this time of year. The temperatures are like perfect right now. It's so enjoyable right now to be out here and do the work that we have to do. What about you guys? What is your favorite time of the year? For me, this is probably it. Before it gets really, really hot and it's a lot warmer than it was. It's just great, and to see things just growing and flourishing and things just so vibrant with color, it's really an enjoyable time of year. But let me know yours in the comment section below. Well, we got a lot of work today, as always, and I think we're gonna be starting off in the greenhouse. We have some tomatoes that are ready to be strung up on our Tama Hooks. We also have some Tom tomatoes that I really want to show you guys because they need to be transplanted as well. So let's start in there. Well, good morning again. Good morning. I already said good morning to this beautiful lady earlier, but you guys missed that, so I just want to say good morning again. Well, we're getting ready to string up our tomatoes here. Well, first off, I was just talking about, I think this is my favorite time of the year. It's just like the temperature is almost like perfect. Yes. Things are growing, it's exciting. We haven't been worn out by too much heat yet. It really is pretty nice. And the mornings are cool, so there's still not mosquitoes out. You're not fighting with the bugs and the gnats in the morning whenever you're trying to work. So it is like the perfect time of year. Yeah, definitely my favorite. So, well, we have our tomatoes here, and we like to grow indeterminate tomatoes, which are your vining tomatoes. As you can see, is more of a vining type shape, opposed to your determinate tomatoes, which are like bush tomatoes. And for us, we've grown those in the past, and they have just been really difficult for us to control, and they just kind of get all over the place. So we really like the indeterminate tomatoes, and especially when I was learning from Curtis Stone, it was one of the tomatoes that he recommended growing just because they're easy to manage, a lot easier to manage. And when you grow them up the Tama Hook, which we're getting ready to set up here, it's so much easier to see all the different fruits that you have on there. It's easy to harvest. Much of it is like right at eyesight level, so yep. It just makes things so much easier and so much better. Right now these are flowering right here, so definitely want to get on this, and as you can see they're starting to lean over, so we really need to get these up. So these are the Tama Hooks Mike was mentioning. And all you do is you take your Tama Hook, the bottom. I like to just tie it around the stem. There are these little clips that you can buy, but I just do a loose knot, just something that's gonna hold. And then you take it and you go around your tomato plants like so. Make sure you don't knock the blossoms off. But then once you get it strung up, it holds it up, and you go and you hang it from up there. Alrighty, and that's what I'm here for. Work together. Alright, and we'll just hook it there, just like that. Yep. And then our tomato plant is standing up. And with these Tama Hooks here, they're adjustable. So as the plant grows, you can, if you need to get more length, you just basically just pull down on here, and then you can bring the string on just like that. Or just like that. So we'll wrap it just like that to keep it on there. So we're a little late in getting these up. Ideally, we should have gotten these strung up much sooner, because on a couple of these plants, as they were leaning over, it wasn't able to let the branches grow out properly, so we have more branches on one side than on the other.
So, and it makes it harder whenever you wait this long to string them up, because you have more foliage you have to deal with, and it just takes longer.
So we actually have some other tomatoes in our high tunnel that aren't as far along as these tomatoes that Lacie just pruned. So after we finish these, stringing these up, we're gonna go head over to there, and those are at a much better height for doing this process, making it so much easier. And this one's a good example of what Lacie's talking about as she's wrapping the string around this. She's just constantly getting caught on the different leaves and making it more complicated to avoid hitting the flowers on there, which you definitely don't want to do.
No loosened tomatoes.
Because the flowers is what is going to make the tomatoes for you. And in addition to growing the tomato plants here, I've also planted leeks as well as lettuce, just to maximize the growing space. There's no way, if you got the room, to see what you can do to interplant different things that may work together with growing as companions with your plants, so that way you can maximize what you're growing.
Man, these, I'm just gonna have to prune these some more, because every time you prune them, it stimulates growth. And I just pruned these the other day, and look at that sucker. It's huge. So I'm gonna have to take that off, and just so it puts its energy into setting fruit instead of growing a whole other plant.
Yeah, no need for the tomato plant to have just a whole bunch of leaves and no fruit. We want the fruit on there.
So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this off right there. And did you know you could take this little sucker and actually stick it down on the ground and water it really good, and it would start a whole new tomato plant just like this? So here's a tip to save money. If you don't have money, or if you haven't started anything from seed, but you want to go buy some tomato plants, but maybe you don't have enough money to buy a lot of tomato plants, just bring 1 or 2 home and let the suckers start. Cut those things off and stick them in the ground, and you'll have more tomato plants. And if you don't know what a sucker is, here's another example right here. So you have the main stem right here. That's what we want. We want it to have one main stem, and at each branch that comes out, suckers are going to form, and it's just a whole other little plant that comes out, and it will flower and you will have tomatoes, but your tomatoes will probably be smaller. The plant won't produce as nice of a tomato plant, because it's putting its energy into so many different things. So you just come in here and you cut the sucker off, and like I said, you can replant that, have a whole other tomato. Ideally, you want to find your suckers before they get this big. Let's see if I can find a smaller one for you. I just did these the other day, but I don't see a smaller one. But they ideally, you can just take them and knock them off with your fingers. But once they get this big, you really want to cut them to make sure you don't damage your plant.
All right, felt like a little bit of a Mission Impossible there, walking along the block. But one of the things you may notice is there's different heights or stages of growth in our tomatoes. And that's because as I was setting up the block here, I was transplanting them at 3 different times. Not just tomatoes, but also the leeks and the lettuce as well. And the latter tomato plants that we were stringing up were actually at a more easier, suitable growth level, or growth stages of growth, for us to put the string them up for the Tama Hooks. So hopefully the ones at the high tunnel will be just that easy or easier. But right back here, we also use the Tama Hooks for our cucumbers as well. And that makes them easy to harvest and prune if necessary. And so much easier to not have to squat down, bend over, and look for your harvest on the ground and noticing, hey, oh, I missed some. That I should have harvested that a couple days ago, and now it's all rotten. But when you see them strung up, that they're right there at that eye level, it's just so much easier to harvest them. So we'll string these up, and then we'll head on over. I'm so excited. We have baby tomatoes. Look there, baby tomato coming on. Wow. And lots of flowers, and there's some more tomatoes that are coming on. And these are the tomatoes. I got some tomatoes from Teresa Salatin last year when we were there, and I saved the seeds. And these were her grandmother's tomatoes that her grandmother always grew, and she always grows them every year. So I think I'm just gonna call them Teresa's tomatoes now. Sounds good to me. And for those of you who are wondering, who is Teresa Salatin? It's actually Joel Salatin, Polyface, his wife. So we are excited about these tomatoes because they were fantastic when we tasted them. All right, one of the things that I have learned here, especially time being married, as well as living here on the homestead, there's some things that she's better than I am at. And one of those things is doing some of the more delicate jobs of tying things up and nurturing and tending for things. She's much better at that. So
Hulk smash! Hulk smash!
So I'm gonna let you, if you don't mind, tying the cucumbers up. See, look at that. She's so much more tender-handed, whatever you want to call it, than I am. Oftentimes when I do this, I'm like, oh man, I just broke a limb. Oh man, I just broke that. Oh, I just knocked the flower.
Oh, I just ripped it out of the ground.
Yeah, that happens too.
But I've done that too, so it's not just him.
Well, this high tunnel is taller than our greenhouse, so I won't be able to just stand on top of the block or a chair and do it. I'm gonna actually have to get on a ladder to help Lacie with setting up the Tama Hook. So here we go. Alrighty, so we got most of our tomatoes on the Tama Hook, but we still have some more to do. Between here, the high tunnel, and the greenhouse where we were just working, we have over 100 tomatoes as well as over 100 cucumber plants. So we ran out of Tama Hooks and we need to get some more, so we're gonna have to wait for those to come in. And speaking of things coming in, you may have noticed that the plastic was blowing a little bit. I had to order some more channels for the wiggle wire to go through, the channel locks to hold the plastic into the wood, and we just got those in not too long ago, so I need to secure those down so the plastic isn't flapping there. And there's still a couple of other things that we still need to do here in this high tunnel, like another one is running our irrigation line and setting them up here for the cucumbers and the tomato plants. So right now we're just having to water from overhead, but it is what it is. Just gradually just continue to make progress and do what you can do. Well, next up, we're gonna head over back to the greenhouse and we're gonna be transplanting some micro tomatoes, some micro Tom tomatoes. And for those of you who may be thinking, Mike, what you're growing is neat with the Tama Hooks and all that in your high tunnel and your greenhouse, you're like, man, that's nice, but I'm not able to do that right now. The micro Tom tomatoes may be what could be just right for you, because you can grow them anywhere. But let me show you those. Right here we have our micro Tom tomatoes, and man, I wish I'd have known about these tomatoes when I first started gardening way back when we lived in the city, because these tomatoes you can grow anywhere, on a patio, even probably in your kitchen window. You can grow them in grow bags or little pots, which we're getting ready to transplant ours into these pots right here that we're recycling from Stark Brothers. We had blackberries and raspberries in these pots, but they're planted now. And now we're going to put our micro Tom tomatoes in there. So we don't necessarily have to grow these, because you've seen the different areas that we have that we're able to grow the larger tomato plants. We can even grow. We showed you the indeterminate ones. I can also grow the bush ones, the determinate ones, if we decided to. But we don't want to do that. But I do want to try these, and these are actually our first time trying these micro Tom tomatoes. And I'm pretty excited because, one, I get to learn in growing new things, and also I get to share these experiences with you guys and give you guys some ideas on things that you can grow and experiment with too. So for those of you who don't have large garden spaces that you can grow things in outdoors, the micro Tom tomato might be a perfect fit for you. It probably would be. You might want to try it. We got our seeds here from Baker Creek, rareseeds.com, which we get a lot of our seeds from. But like I said, you can grow them anywhere, on your deck, your patio. So they just grow these little short plants, and they produce a ton of fruit. So Mike is doing a great job here helping me by filling up the pots. And then now we're going to put I'm going to be transplanting the micro Tom tomatoes in here as he's continuing to fill up our pots here. You get dirty sometimes?
Yeah.
You get grit?
I'm looking for my towel right now.
Just pinch right here at the bottom. Just pull it out just like that. There you go. Go just like that. Got another pot for me yet?
Almost.
Alright. Just transplant that in here just like that. I like to disturb the soil as least as possible on our transplants. Thank you, pal.
We don't need the black one anymore.
We'll use them, but I want to start with these first. In addition to growing them in these pots here, I'm also going to try growing these micro Toms in some grow bags. And there's a number of benefits to using grow bags, but one of the things that I'm thinking here with the micro Toms is, well, sometimes with the pots, they can get knocked over really easy. Grow bags are a lot harder to knock over, so we're gonna plant a few of them, a few of the Toms in there, and see what happens. All right, Mike, I'm gonna need some more of your potting mix here for our grow bag. Here we're using potting mix from Dirt Craft Organics, and it's really important to use a quality potting mix soil when you're planting things like tomatoes in grow bags and containers, because you want to make sure that they have the nutrients they need to produce the fruit, because some of these things like tomatoes are heavy feeders. They need a nitrogen, and they need a strong amounts of these things in a potting mix. So just a regular compost, leaf compost, or it won't cut it. So you got to really make sure you get a good potting mix for plants like these. All right, since I'm new at growing the micro Toms, I don't know the spacing that they require for each plant in a container. So here in this grow bag, I'm going to try to put 2 in there and just see what happens. Another one here. Go. Let's make a little bit around. You're doing fantastic, Micah.
Done.
Well, since I had a few more micro Tom tomato plants, I decided to transplant those in some other planters that we had around here as well. Well, those are two weird, wacky, and unusual ways of growing tomatoes that some of you maybe have never heard of before. And if you have, let me know in the comment section below if you've raised or grown tomatoes as the micro Tom tomatoes, or you have done indeterminate tomatoes with the hard pruning method. Let me know. I'd like to know how your experience has been with growing tomatoes in either of these two methods. Well, this year, once again, I am planning to be at the Homesteading Life Conference. Lacey's going to join me and maybe a couple of the kids. I don't know, but I plan to be there, and so does Lacie. And we really enjoy this conference. It's a great opportunity for us to come together with people of like mind, of people interested in homesteading stuff. And it's an opportunity to learn from others as well. Learn all types of homesteading skills to equip your repertoire or you Batman utility belt of homesteading skills. So there's only 100 tickets left for this conference. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, you need to do so before they're all gone. And I'll leave the link for that in the show notes below and hope to see you there. So maybe you want to try also growing some tomatoes like I showed in either of these methods here. If you do, I'd love to hear about how it goes in the future. So let me know. See you next time.